we're going to bend our knees up, and all I want you to do is just bring awareness to the right arm. And if you move it away from your torso, it doesn't have to be as high up as your shoulder, but just away from your torso so that you've got some space. And just on the spot, let the arm roll like a rolling pin. Roll it up, roll it down. So it doesn't come up by your ear and then down by your hip. It stays in that same spot, but it rolls or spirals. It turns the hand and the elbow and the shoulder. And just notice what that's like. It might be a relief if you've got a lot of tension through the arm. It might feel a bit achy, particularly around the elbow or the shoulder. But just see how it feels and notice what kind of rotation you're able to do with that arm. Have you instinctively just moved it a little bit, or have you really allowed the rotation of the arm to happen so that the wrist turns and the palm turns as much as it can, so it's going all the way down to the fingertips? Or do you maybe rip yourself off a little bit and not put a great deal of rotation through it? And maybe just notice why. Is it because it won't go? It could just be tight or uncomfortable. Or is it just because you didn't realise you had a bit more range of movement? So what I'm going to invite you to explore next is just notice the shoulder, and can you feel it move as your arm does? We put all the awareness down the arm. That's what's spiraling. That's probably the bigger range of movement that's happening. But can you feel your shoulder reacting to where the arm rolls? It might come off the floor if the arm goes down. It might go back to the floor if the arm rolls up. So what if we were to swap our awareness around and think about our shoulder instead of our arm and create that same movement, but almost let the arm and the wrist happen as a domino effect rather than the part that you move from? So in order to get the rotation, start by taking a breath in and rolling the shoulder back to the floor first. Feel your shoulder blade having to tighten and pull to your spine, and then let the arm roll all the way down to the fingertips as a consequence. So that when we want to unravel this, we begin to let it unravel by letting the shoulder blade slide and move away from the spine, letting the shoulder come off the floor gently, curling it towards the ceiling. It creates a bit of tension in the chest, and then we can really roll the arm down to the wrist, into the hand as a consequence. So that when you're ready to go back up, take the organization from the shoulder, roll it back, feel the chest lengthen, feel the shoulder blade and the rhomboid muscle underneath start to move and tighten until you press the shoulder back into the floor, and then you can let the arm turn as a consequence, and notice the head. Sorry, got head in a bit too soon. Does your head want to turn as your shoulder rolls back? Let it. Don't try and isolate anything. Start to notice how you move as a pattern rather than as a singular part of your body. So each time you are rolling the shoulder up and then pressing it back, let the arm then move, kind of aftermath. Sometimes parts of it might feel simultaneous. Sometimes you might be very conscious that the arm can definitely go afterwards. But just let that happen and see how it feels. Is it bigger now that the shoulder is doing the bulk of the organization, or does it feel smaller? What's going on for you? So that if you wanted to, maybe we could do one more and think about finishing off as the arm rolls up and the shoulder presses back, just so that we've got a nice sense of space across the chest. And then just let the arm and the shoulder relax to neutral. And just check in with how that right side feels compared to the left. And it might be a good idea to get your left arm in roughly the same position as your right, so you know you've got some equilibrium between the two, to give you a good basis to figure out how that right side feels. Has it changed? Is it different to the left? If so, how so? Maybe you can't figure it out. Maybe you just know it's different, and that's sometimes enough. That's what helps the nervous system to change and shift and learn to relax and let go. So that if we tried to do this on the left side, just see what would happen. Now you already know how it's going to go, but what if you just humour me and start by spiraling the arm with just the arm, and notice how the shoulder joins in, maybe because the awareness is in the arm, and that's where you're choosing to organise the movement from. That's your control. You can let the arm move, and then maybe the shoulder happens secondary. And just see, do you really use the full expression of this spiral that you've got? Or do you rip yourself off on this side? Maybe you don't quite fully rotate as much as you could. And is that because you can't, or it hurts, or because you just didn't realise you had that range over here? So that if I asked you to transfer the awareness into the shoulder when you're next ready, and see if you can organise that whole movement by starting at the top, letting the shoulder roll back, feeling the shoulder blades slide in, tightening that rhomboid muscle, chest lengthens, and then the arm can roll up. And this might be where the head wants to loll to the left. And then as you reorganize it the other way, start to let the shoulder blade move first, let it come out of your back, so that you can then roll the shoulder up off the floor, tightening the chest and allowing the arm to spiral downwards all the way through the wrist to the fingertips. And then breathe it all the way back. Take the organisation from the shoulder first and then up through the arm. And notice, is this easier or harder than your right side? Because this can have a direct effect from your dominant side. Dominant side is extremely dexterous and has been practicing this kind of stuff since you learned to pick up your food or a toy. Whereas the left side, maybe not so much. Unless you're left-handed, in which case this will be so much easier. But notice for them changes. So that if I suggested we do one more, and then we finish with the shoulder rolling back, and then we can rest to neutral.